and welcome to Brewing Success, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal. I am your host, Andrea Gebhardt. I'm a former educator turned passionate entrepreneur whose desire to create impact has never wavered. I have spent the last decade teaching, mentoring, and coaching people on how to create success in their lives and businesses with proven strategies and systems that not only bring about change, but big results. When it comes down to it, teaching is my specialty, leadership is my jam, and inspiring you to live a bigger, fuller life is what I'm all about. This podcast will give you the knowledge and tools you need to brew success in almost any area of your life. You're going to walk away each week feeling inspired, motivated, and ready to step outside your comfort zone and into the next level of who you're meant to be. Now let's get into today's episode. So let's talk about the invisible force that shapes your decisions, fuels your action or inaction, and ultimately determines how far you go. This invisible force I'm talking about, it's your mindset. And I know you've heard it before, mindset is everything. But what does that really mean when you're in the trenches of leadership, building a business, or just trying to show up fully in your life? In this episode today, I'm going to pull back the curtain on what I believe is the most important leadership work you're ever going to do. Because the truth is, you can't outperform the belief system that you live under. If your mindset is rooted in doubt, fear, or scarcity, you will unconsciously limit your own growth. But if you can learn to spot your limiting beliefs and shift the way you think, you're going to be able to unlock freedom, confidence, and clarity that separates those who dabble from those who truly lead. We talk a lot about strategy and systems in leadership and business. But today I want to go deeper than, what's on your calendar or your content plan. Because before any of that, there's your mindset. And if you don't shift the beliefs that are running the show behind the scenes, the results will always feel like they're just out of reach. So let's go there. Let's shift the ceiling. And let's do that by first talking about limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are the invisible scripts running the show. A limiting belief is a subconscious narrative that places a false ceiling on your potential. And it often sounds like, things like, I'm not ready. I'm not good at this. I always mess up. People like me don't succeed in things like this. I'm never good at things like this. If it has not in it or never, it's probably a limiting belief. If it puts you down, it's probably a limiting belief. If it's a negative statement, it is probably a limiting belief. And according to Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's a cell biologist and researcher, 95% of our behavior, 95, that's like most of it, is driven by subconscious beliefs, many of which were formed before the age of 7. So these beliefs are like layers of wallpaper, for example. Like, if you were to buy like a mid-century home and the person who lived there before you, depending on what era they were in or what design was cool, just put up layer and layer and layer and layer and layer of wallpaper. That's kind of how your belief system is built. Layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of beliefs. A lot that you didn't come to on your own. They were kind of passed to you by things that were said to you or spoken over to you. Oh my gosh, and I could go on a whole tangent about that's why we got to, protect the words that we use and the words that others, like who we give the ability to speak into the lives of, like, especially our kids, right? Those layers of wallpaper may not be visible, but they're there. And if you eventually want to remodel or repaint that home that you bought, you're going to have to remove it one layer at a time. And if you want to remodel your life, remodel your business, we're going to have to revisit some of these limiting beliefs. And we're going to have to remove them one layer at a time. Because these beliefs shape how we lead. They shape how we show up on social media, how we pursue our goals, and how we respond to challenges. So we've got to be intentional about the work we need to do to undo them. And now that we've talked about kind of like what a limiting belief is, let's talk about how to actually spot yours, because awareness, as you know, is everything. You can't shift what you're not willing to face. And if you want to grow, you have to confront what you've been conditioned to believe. I'm going to say that again. If you want to grow, you have to confront what you've been conditioned to believe. So here's how to recognize a limiting belief. What are the thoughts that you have that pop up right before you take bold action? What story do you tell yourself when something doesn't work out? Where do you default to fear, hesitation, or perfectionism. We got to look at those areas because that's where limiting beliefs tend to pop up right before we take bold action. They come up right when we feel like we failed and something didn't work out. And when fear, hesitation, and, feeling like everything has to be perfect before we can take action, there's limiting beliefs tied to all of those. Common leadership limiting beliefs sound like, I'm not qualified to lead other people. No one wants to join my team. I'm not good at helping other people be successful. I can't do it perfectly, so I just shouldn't do it at all. And this is where we have to kind of like perform a mindset audit. When these limiting beliefs arise, when we catch ourselves thinking them or saying them, we have to ask ourselves, is this belief helping me or holding me back? If it's helping you, great. If it's holding you back, probably a limiting belief. And then we know it's not true. It's pre-programming. It's just old wallpaper. We got to tear it down and we got to get rid of it. Sometimes when I catch myself, like me, procrastinating on something I know that is aligned with my goals, it's always because of some internal belief that I haven't unpacked. And the interesting thing is the area of my life where I procrastinate the most is actually this podcast. And, I don't monetize the podcast. I've turned down tons of offers for sponsorships. I don't want to fill up my podcast with ads. It's just not my jam. I just want to be here with you, sharing really great information, helping you lead and live a better life. And, so it doesn't contribute to my income or anything like that. It's not monetized. This is more of like a passion project for me. I just wanted a bigger platform to reach more people, to impact more people. And so, sometimes I have a tendency because there's really nothing to lose if I don't record an episode or if I don't, there's no consequential action except for I feel like crap when I get behind or life is happening, things of that nature. And I started doing a little bit of a deeper dig as to why I tend, and it doesn't have to do with like the fact that it doesn't generate income. What I started to realize is I had this limiting belief that it wasn't loud. It was just like this tiny little whisper in my mind. And it sounded like that limiting belief was like, it's not a big deal. It's only important to you. Like this limiting belief, it's okay if you don't write that episode. It's okay if you don't record. It's okay if you don't stay on track. It's okay if you don't batch work ahead of time because you have a busy month coming. It's okay. It's okay. It's only important to you. This podcast is only important to you. It's not a big deal. It's only important to you. And that limiting belief minimizes the purpose of this podcast, the impact of this podcast, the vision of this podcast. It minimizes all of it. That's what limiting beliefs do. They minimize and they rob. They minimize and they rob. They paralyze. They do all that. Minimize, paralyze, and rob, right? And it's just like, I had to oh my gosh, no, this podcast is important. You want to know how I know? Because every single week, as you guys are listening to this, I get messages. I get emails. I hear stories. I hear how something helped. I hear how, they listened to an episode, whether it was from last week or 2 years ago, that really impacted and changed things for them. How they shared it with somebody who they cared about. I mean, all the time you guys are sharing and showing me that this podcast is important. And so I have to reframe that limiting belief. It's important to me and it's important to the people who are out there. My goal is that an episode, just one, impacts or moves a needle for one person, changes the trajectory of their life. That's like the whole goal. And it's crazy because when I would say that to myself, I knew it wasn't the truth, but it was hard for me to get out from under. And I knew that limiting belief was just doubt creeping in. It's doubt creeping in and crop dusting all over my podcast parade, right? So once you start recognizing those thoughts as stories, not facts, limiting beliefs are stories, not facts. You gain power. And the next step, rewriting the script. Because your beliefs may be invisible, but they create your visible results. I worked with a leader once who always said, I'm just not good at leading a team. I'm not good at leading people. I'm not good at leading a team. Always, always, always. And, it got to a point where we needed to address this and we dug deeper. And it really wasn't about her skills. It was just that she had never seen herself as a leader growing up, never saw herself as a leader in her former career. And once she redefined what leadership meant to her and built new affirmations around it, her confidence and results completely changed. Limiting beliefs, you guys, are like weeds. You got to get to the root to remove it. If your mindset is your ceiling, it's time to raise the roof. Here are 4 simple steps to transform your mindset. Number 1, recognize the belief. So let's just say the belief is, I'm not ready. I remember having that belief when I wanted to start this podcast. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the stuff. I don't have the content. I'm not ready, right? Recognize the belief. Second, you got to reveal the root. So what's the root of you're not ready? Oh, it's actually, I'm afraid that it's going to fail. Why? Because I've failed before. And that for me, it was like, what if nobody listens? What if nobody likes it? What if nobody downloads? What if nobody subscribes? Like, what if? So the root was fear. That's what it was. It was fear. Then you want to take it and you want to reframe it with truth. And the truth was, I have tons of leadership experience and knowledge that needs to be shared with other people. And that is the truth. And that instantly quiets down that limiting belief, removes the story, puts a fact in place, and empowers you almost immediately. And then you got to repeat it consistently. I have tons of knowledge and experience that other people need to hear. Speak it, journal it, affirm it. Create proof for you. So just to revisit that, those 4 simple steps to transform your mindset, you got to recognize a belief. Recognize it. What is that belief? What are you saying? What is that limiting belief that's popping up? 2, reveal the root. What's at the root of that? Fear, doubt, comparison? What is it? And then reframe it with truth. Remember, limiting beliefs are stories, not facts. And then repeat it consistently. Neuroscience tells us that repetition builds new neural pathways. So you're literally rewiring your brain to believe in your next level. I mean, think about it. If we can operate fully today with programming from before we were 7 years old, we can operate now and pre-program our brains for the next best version of ourselves. Like, I think that's pretty freaking rad. This concept of building new neural pathways isn't limited to leadership and mindset. You can do it in any area of your life, and it's really quite powerful. So now that you know how to shift your belief system, it's time to reinforce it daily. Because here's the truth. Your inner dialogue is either building your future or keeping you stuck in the past. This is something I have to work on constantly. Even with years of experience, I still have moments where old patterns sneak in. The difference now is I know how to catch them, challenge them, and shift them. I've literally said to myself out loud, that's not true anymore. And just like that, I regain authority over my mindset. And I might look and sound crazy to who might be around me in those moments, but I kind of think that crazy is a prerequisite for being an entrepreneur, for being a mover and a shaker. You got to be a little bit crazy if you want to work outside the box, right? Think outside the lines. You know, there's one thing though I do want to make very clear here. In fact, I hope that you write it down and put it somewhere you can see it daily. I actually hope that you share this sentiment with your kids, whether they're young or grown. I hope you impart this wisdom on those you lead and mentor. And here it is. You are the most influential voice in your life. So make sure you're saying something worth believing. Start speaking like the leader you're becoming, not the version of you that's stuck in the past. Instead of saying things like, I don't know what I'm doing, shift it to I'm figuring it out and capable of learning fast. Instead of saying this probably won't work, shift it to this could be the thing that changes everything. That's an immediate perspective shift. Instead of saying, what if I fail? Shift it to what if I fly? Instead of saying, what if I fail? Shift it to what if I figure it out? You want to know something? Confidence, it's built on the conversations you have with yourself. It's time to start having better ones. And that's the work, daily, deliberate, and worth it. Because your mindset isn't just some fluffy personal development phrase. It's the ceiling of what you allow yourself to pursue. And when you shift it, everything else begins to expand. If you ever feel stuck, I challenge you to ask this: what belief is holding me back here? It could be something as simple as, I need to be more organized before I start, or no one's going to take me seriously. These are the beliefs that, when flipped, go from sinkholes to launch pads. And at the end of the day, your mindset is always going to determine your momentum. So if you feel stuck, stalled, stagnant, it's not your ability that's in question, it's your level of belief. So today, I challenge you to do the real work, raise the ceiling, rewrite the script, and lead from a place of clarity, conviction, and possibility. Because the moment you start believing in the leader that you actually are, is the moment your results start catching up with your potential. And you know what? It's grow time. So I love this topic, guys, and I love even more that we got to tackle it together. Thank you for being here with me on Brewing Success, where growth is the mission, change is the reward, and progress is the goal. It is time to raise the roof on your beliefs, elevate your mindset, and rise to your unlimited potential. I will see you back here next week with an exciting new episode. Thanks for being here.